Right, okay, what we've got is circumference of a circle. Okay, so the circumference of a circle is the perimeter of the circle. So as you can see here now, that outline, that is our circumference because it is all the way around the outside. So for example, if you cut it in, like if you just cut that end and then put it out in one long line, you'd be able to measure how long the circle is. What we need to be able to do is to find the circumference of a circle is we need to be able to find the diameter first of all. So the first thing we need to know is that the diameter is all the way across through the center of the circle. You also get some questions that when you've got your circle, you'll have a radius. A radius is only half the way across from the circle. The formula to find out the circumference of a circle is pi, which is, oh, the pen's gone off, pi multiplied by the diameter. So if we can find the diameter, we can find the circumference because pi is a number that is irrational, and irrational means it just goes on forever and ever and ever. But the most common sort of known numbers for pi is that 3.14. It goes on forever and ever and ever, and it's used to help you find the circumference and the area of a circle. It's also used for other things to do with circles as well. Right, so that's what we're going to look at, is how we find it. That's the formula. So let's have a look at some examples. So I'll just go back a few steps. Bosh, bosh, bosh. Right, so if we start with a diameter, so if we think, right, we've got our formula, pi multiplied by diameter. If we say that this diameter is going to be 5 centimeters, the first thing I would do would be write down what the formula is. The next thing, I'm then going to look at the circle and decide, have I got a radius or have I got a diameter? Okay, so I can see it's going all the way across through the center. So I'm just going to label that D for diameter. The next thing then for working out, pi multiplied by 5. If you were on a non-calculator paper, they might ask you to give your answer in terms of pi. In terms of pi would be this answer here, 5 pi. When it says in terms of pi, what we're basically saying is you've got a pi sign within your answer. It's effectively like an equivalent fraction in that sense, because your calculator will come up with 5 pi, but it will also come up with its diameter. Sorry, not its diameter. It'll also come up with the decimal equivalent to that as well. So when we want to then take it to a decimal, we can then turn what we see on our screen into a decimal. Sometimes it just comes up as a decimal. Sometimes if you've got certain calculators, you have to just convert that across. So 5 pi is equal to 15.70796, and then it just keeps going on. What we want to do is make sure we're simplifying it and rounding it to a certain degree of accuracy. The question might tell us to round it to a certain degree of accuracy. In this case, it doesn't. So I'm just going to do it to 1 decimal place. So 1 decimal place, I'm going to put my box around. So it's either going to be 15.7 or 15.8. The number 0 is my decider. So these don't matter. Because that's a 0, my 7 stays as is. So I've got 15.7 centimeters as my diameter. I don't need to square my units because, like I said earlier, the circumference is a distance rather than an area. We only need to square our units if it's an area. Right, if we have got a, let's just delete all this. If we've got a circle this time with a radius, what we would need to do is then think about, oh, not working. All right, circle. Right, so yeah, so if we've got a circle with a radius this time, what we want to be able to do is double that radius. And then we've got what then we need for circumference equals pi times diameter. Oh, moved it. Oh, this pen's being a pain tonight. Yeah, right, thank you. So radius, I said earlier, is only half the way across. So if we then say, keep the same number, 5 centimeters, because it's only half the way across and I need a diameter, that means then I'm going to need to double it. Okay, so again, we can still use that pi times diameter, but a diameter is 2 lots of my radius. So some people might just do pi multiplied by 2 times 5. You get the same answer, but we're just going to stick to just doubling it, just so we're sticking with just one number and one formula to think about. So 5 multiplied by 2 gives me 10. So in terms of pi, that gives me 10. And then with my pi sign, and again, go to my calculator, and I'm just going to look at the degrees of accuracy. So we want, let's do it to 2 decimal places this time. So your pi multiplied by 10 gives us 31.41592 and so on. If I want it to 2 decimal places, I've got it there. So it's either going to be 31.41 or 31.42. The 5 is the decider. Because that's a 5, it's going to make it go up to 31.42 and then centimeters for our circumference. Okay, zoom out a bit so you can see it a bit better. Right, next part would be if we were given a question that was maybe a half a circle, then could we still find the circumference? So let's have a look at that. So if I've got a circle, let's just draw my circle up first of all again. Actually, I'm just going to draw it by hand because I want a semicircle, don't we? Right, so if I've got a semicircle, this straight line here, this is our diameter because it's going from the edge of the circle across to the edge of the circle, all the way across, and our center point would be there. So we've already got a diameter. And let's say that our diameter is, let's say 8 meters. We want to now find the circumference of the whole circle. Sorry, not the whole circle, for the whole semicircle. So the first thing I want to find is, I know that I'm going to need to use that 8, and I'm going to need to use that to help me find the diameter. That will find me the whole circle first of all, but that doesn't matter. So I'm going to stick to what I know first of all, which is pi multiplied by my diameter, which is equal to 8 lots of pi. I'm not going to turn it into a decimal just yet, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to half that so I can just find this half of the circle. So I'm then going to do 8 pi divided by 2, which gives me 4 lots of pi. Okay, so now what I've found is that the curved part of my semicircle is equal to 4 pi, but I also want this because that's going to be part of the perimeter of this shape. So what I can now do is take my 4 lots of pi, and then I can add my 8 meters on. So then I'm going all the way around the circular part, but then also all the way across to then get myself back to that start position. I've not turned anything into a decimal until this point because it just saves me rounding for each time. If we think about equivalence in regards to like equivalent fractions to decimals to percentages, 4 pi is equivalent to its decimal. So I've got 4 multiplied by my pi, and then I'm going to add 8 to that. It gives me an answer of 20.566. And I'm going to round it to 2 decimal places. So I've got meters and then centimeters. So because this is a 6 here, it means it's going to have to be 20.56, sorry, 57. And then in this case, meters. So all the way along the straight, all the way around the arch is a total distance of 20.5 centimeters. So the key things to know and take away is circumference is all the way around the outside of a circle. Your diameter is all the way across through the middle, but a radius is only half the way across, and 2 radius makes a diameter. And obviously the final thing just to always remember is circumference equals pi times diameter. Okay, hope that helps. If it doesn't, tough.